Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Get Seen, Be Heard. I'm Christina Daves with PR for Anyone, coming remotely from Michigan, and my co-host is Karen Yankovich, who is remote in Florida, so we're at all ends of the temperature spectrum today. But we want to welcome you guys. We have a great show. I'm super excited. Donna Wertalik from Virginia Tech is with us and talking about your social footprint. But welcome, Karen. How are you? You want to tell everybody a little bit about you and us? And
yeah, I'm good, Christina. Yeah, as Christina said, I'm actually in Florida, and being able to do this with my business is something I've worked really hard for. To be able to set up a business that allows me to be remote from places like Florida. I live in New Jersey. It's about 10 degrees in New Jersey this week, so I'm really happy to be in Florida. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. My Wi-Fi here has not been great, so hopefully I can stay connected the whole time. But we know how that goes. So and Donna's having a little trouble getting on, so we're going to try to get Donna on. If you're listening to this on iTunes, Donna is. We're still trying to bring her on, so we'll be talking a little tech support until we can get her pretty little face on here. So Christina, what's happening in the world of PR?
Guys, it's January, first week of January. I hope you're making a plan. Lay out your year, get it all on a piece of paper. And Karen, we talk about this, social media too. You've got to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. But if you do and you follow that plan, it's just so easy to get this extra exposure and buzz for your business. So that's kind of my homework assignment for everybody, and I'm working on mine too for the year. But start a plan. It's January. Don't break this resolution. Do it, and do it with social media and how you're going to work the two together. Like we always try to share great ideas. And how about you, Karen?
Yeah, well, similar. So I'm, looking at social media. We talked last week. If you were here last week, we talked about how I really believe that you've got to at least be looking at live streaming and see what's going on with Periscope and Blab and Facebook Live and seeing if there's a way to incorporate that into your business. I actually had, I was out last night with my aunt and met this guy that was talking about, he's got a business, he does dive instructions like scuba diving type things down here in Florida. And he had really never heard of any of it. So I really had a lot of fun. He does Twitter and Facebook, and he does them both really well. So I was really, enjoying the conversation, trying to bring him into live streaming. But what I like about live streaming and what I want to talk about today is it's not just the platform, right? So we're here on Blab, and this is a live streaming platform, but we're tweeting it and we're sharing it on Facebook, right? And then Christina and I are taking this video and we're uploading it to YouTube and incorporating it into iTunes. So what live streaming is doing is not just giving you the visibility, right? The get seen, be heard aspect, but it's giving you content that you can share on multiple platforms. And I hear a lot from people, what do I post? I don't know what to post. Well, if you're comfortable turning on your camera and speaking, you're giving yourself content that you can use across all your social media platforms. So that's kind of the message I want you to think about when you're putting that plan in place. Understand, like, I don't want you to be like, okay, I have to blab again, now I have to Periscope again. I want you to Periscope once and then think about where you could use that content before you Periscope again, right? Build a library of content from these platforms.
And the other thing you can do, which I love to do anytime I do videos or interviews, is use rev.com and get your video transcribed. So then you've got your video for YouTube, you've got a blog post that you can use your video and your transcription. You can post it all across, everything. You've got your tweetables, you've got your posts for Facebook, you can take little excerpts, from your video. And it's just, don't think of it as just one outlet when you do one live stream. It can go on forever.
Exactly. And what Christina's talking about with rev.com is they will transcribe your video. I think it's $1 a minute.
If
you have a 5-minute video for $5, you can have that as a blog post as well. So it's pretty good stuff. I'm so sad that we can't get Donna on here. I don't know what's going on. She keeps trying. Is Donna, can you talk? Let's see if we can hear you.
No. I'm trying to text her too. I told her not to do Safari, to do Firefox or Chrome.
Yeah, I think she can see the chat on the side. So
yeah,
hopefully she's trying to do that. I don't know. You can try it from your phone or an iPad, Donna. It does work from, yes, it is rev.com, rev.com website.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, listen, I don't know if you want to spend $30 to transcribe something, but you might if it's valuable, that, right? You have a blog post. There is no other place you're going to get a blog post for $30, right? So,
right.
Even if it's a half hour, it might seem like a lot of money, but in the big picture, yeah, totally worth it.
Totally worth it. I use Rev all the time.
I do too. So I do social media quick tips. If you guys go to my YouTube channel or my Twitter stream or Facebook, you'll see I do a weekly social media quick tip. And then what I do, and it's just a screenshot video. So it's 3 minutes to 5 minutes, 2 minutes to 5 minutes long. And then once I finish it, it goes on my YouTube channel. But then I go to rev.com, I get it transcribed, and then that goes on my blog once a week. So it gives me a second blog every week of, with a video incorporated into it. So again, I love social media, but there's no need to be stressing about it, where there's lots of ways you could reuse content. And the people that are killing it on social media are reusing content. So don't think that that's the, easy way out. It's the strategic way.
Right. And you can use other people's content.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Share as long as you're getting credit, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Don't steal anybody's content. I'm so sad. I don't know why we can't get her in. She's still trying. Right, there's nothing else I should do. I don't know what this it says the green check mark. Oh, you know what, Karen, let me make you a co-host too real quick in case anybody gets kicked out.
Does anybody want to jump in and chat with us while we're waiting for Donna to try to get on? Maybe we can do this kind of backwards. Talk to us about what you're doing in 2016 with your social media. And we'll have some more conversation about that. And, listen, Christina and I are always available to help you. So if you have any questions, specific questions for us, bring it on.
And Donna's trying from her phone now. She just texted me.
Oh, good. Okay. Hey, Jamie, welcome. We're having trouble getting our guest on. So if anybody wants to jump on while we're trying to get Donna on, join the conversation. We'd love to have you. We're talking about, when Donna comes on, we're going to talk about your social footprint, but we're talking about 2016 plans and what you're doing, how you're doing it. One of the things, I think that it's important. I actually did a lot of calls this last week or two, one-on-one calls with people. And what I'm finding is that it seems to me anyway, that having like a plan, like I spoke to somebody this morning and I said to her, you've got a great platform. I loved the content she was putting out. I loved the way she was using the different platforms. I said, this year, you need to blow it up. You need to grow your followers. If you had more followers, all of the things you're doing would be so much more effective. You'd be getting those clients. You'd be making those sales if you had more followers. So she's doing all the foundational work, but she really wasn't spending enough time growing the platforms. So that's kind of going to be her plan for 2016 is growing the platforms, growing the number of followers. Keep on doing what she's doing, but growing the platforms.
Which is what you want
to do. So Christina, Sandra interviewed Alex Young the other day.
Oh, yeah?
So that was a great interview. She had her daughter there, and so Sandra and her daughter interviewed Alex, who's a good friend of Christina's and mine. So I jumped on for a little bit to watch that. That was a great show, Sandra. Good job.
Oh, here's Sandra's coming in. Let me close this.
Yeah, Sandra, we're having trouble getting our guest on. So, hey.
Ignore my dog. Jamie, I should be walking.
Jamie, I agree with you. Jamie says, I find people are not patient on growing the platform and the followers. I agree with you. You've got to grow it. If you're not growing it, you're stagnant no matter how many times you're posting.
Sorry about my dog. Is he really noisy?
No, not at all.
I just wanted to say hello. Christina, we were looking for you the other day when we were talking to Alex.
I know. I wish I had known I'd have come on.
Yeah.
I know. I texted you, but I think you were in the middle of doing something.
Yeah, so I'd love to share a couple of things that happened, and thank you so much, Karen, for popping in. At the end of the show, Alex shared, sometimes the media just comes to you. And I was kind of scratching my head, and my daughter was kind of scratching her head because she's in PR, and I'm sitting there going, all right. So we ended the blab, and I'm thinking, God, like, what is it? Like winning the lottery? They just find you? So what it really came down to, Karen, was it's very strange because the next day,
they found you.
I have been helping this lady with Blab and Periscope, and we've been forming a relationship. Her name is Karen also. She's a sweetheart. She's from Connecticut. So she's connected to me. We connected in Connecticut, on Blab, on social media. It's all about the relationship is what it is. So I talk about Karen. Karen talks about me. We talk about each other. That's really how we build that community and that relationship. And that is the key for getting the media to come to you, because Karen was at a local TV station in Chicopee, Mass, WWLP or something like that, doing her segment. She does like an etiquette segment every week. And randomly, the producer says to Karen, do you know someone that would like present a real fresh, positive story?
Oh
and so
God.
Karen gave my name. The lady contacted me right after Alex's segment. I'm like, holy crap. Like, is
That's
someone
open
watching
the universe.
Yeah. So
Great
basically
show.
what it
Great
comes down
story.
to is, believing in yourself and just putting yourself out there. And by when people get to talk about you, that's when they bring the media in. It doesn't just fly down from the sky, which I thought, well, that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? So it really is about that relationship. And just to answer that woman's question, I totally agree with you guys. It takes a lot of hustle and a lot of time. I mean, I've been putting in a couple of shows a week here on Blab since middle of August. And I can say that my hustle's paying off. And it took how long? What is that, 6 months? So pick something that you absolutely love and give that 100% and sprinkle in the other things, and things will definitely happen. I'm convinced. It's been happening.
Well, I mean, 6 months is a blink of an eye.
Right.
So you really, it's a lot of hustle, but it can happen fast on these live streaming platforms because you really get to, people really get to know you, which is what I love about it. About it.
Yeah. So it was an awesome show. And now you were the one that mentioned Alex.
Mm-hmm.
I had tried to connect him a couple times. And then I keep hearing ask in threes, right? Just ask. I connected to him on Twitter. We DM'd a little bit. I was in a Blab and we were both connecting in the sidelines. And then finally after that, I'm like, okay, he knows who I am. He knows what I'm doing. I'm just going to ask. And he was all, he was thrilled about it. So it was our first Blab of the year, and Karen popped in, and my daughter was thrilled. And I thank you so much for asking about her. She has a part-time job in school, but she was flattered. I'm like, I think Karen and other people.
I did. Christina knows me. I was like, wait, your daughter does PR. She's in college. Is she looking for some part-time work? Because I'm always looking for good people.
Yeah. She got a couple of, I got a couple of inboxes from that show from people that were interested. I'm like, Allie, you need to Blab more often. See, you just don't know. So, and Allie wants Christina's book because Karen mentioned the book and Alex. She's like, Mom, can you take a screenshot of the book? I want the book. I'm like, okay. So, but it was pretty cool. So, hopefully that helped the viewers. I was trying to take some time up while your poor guest was trying to come in.
And she's still trying.
Okay, so this is what happened to me last week. I had to close everything down and reboot Chrome 100% because I had too many windows open at one point. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that helps her.
So Donna, maybe literally restart your computer, Donna.
Just
give it a couple minutes. Just start your computer all over.
Yeah, totally. And shut down all the windows. The windows are going to confuse. They could probably. And also, too, I found that a lot of things have been happening on Blab with very strange things this past week. So it's definitely not just down. Yeah, it's definitely not just your Blab. But thank you guys so much. Karen, you're enjoying the nice sunshine there?
I am. I actually left the beach today, Sandra, to come back and do this. I left my friend on the beach.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got to go back. Not only do I have to get back in time to do this, I've got to get back in time to shower and do this.
Yeah.
I've got to be on video.
So let me ask you this. Is it easier to stay positive in the sunshine than it is in the clouds and the cold?
It is for me. It is for me.
Yeah.
It is for me, for sure. It's also easier to get distracted and not want to come back and work. So
that's true. It's nice out. Yeah.
But it is for me. I mean, listen,
you're cold.
I love living in New Jersey. I love the seasons. I mean, I don't know that I would ever leave that, but I need the seasons in moderation.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. You're cold, Christina.
I'm already planning my next trip down here.
Yeah, that's what Karen and I are laughing at. I'm in Michigan visiting. My son has hockey. We're visiting friends, and then Karen's in Florida.
Yep.
So we're
trying to come in now. You've got it looks like you have a vest on with a turtleneck, and she's sitting there and it's like, yay! Did that help? I hope it helped.
I restarted. I'm so sorry.
All right, I'm going, guys. Bye.
Okay, thanks for jumping on, Sandra.
All right, she's gonna fix her, and then I'm gonna we'll get rolling with her.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to let Donna introduce herself, but Donna and I are new friends probably in the last year. She teaches marketing at Virginia Tech. She heads the marketing board. I'm a member of it, but she's got a big corporate background too. So Donna, tell everybody about yourself, and then I want to get into like how this whole social footprint thing came about and why I think it's so cool.
Sure. When I look back, I can't believe when I say I've been in marketing for 22 years. I'm originally from New York, Brooklyn, and I went to undergrad at Fairleigh Dickinson University. My career started with Nestle, and I worked there for a few years and handled 300 accounts up and down Northern Virginia, New York City, etc. And really was interested what was behind labels, what was behind brands, how consumers reacted to them, etc. So springboarded off of there and went into advertising and marketing for a small company. Did everything from national to international marketing, packaging, designs, really what they say, cut my teeth, and was able to wear every single hat. Then from there, moved on to a firm where we worked on compliance programs, worked with a lot of pharmaceuticals, got funded about $20 million to do an offshoot of that. It was with Schering-Plough, so that was a phenomenal opportunity. Then moved my career onto Ogilvy, where I worked on the Dove Real Beauty account, as well as Mount Sinai and a variety of other pieces. So it has been a robust career. And then in 2003, we moved down to Blacksburg. My husband is a master scientific glass blower, one of only 100 in the country. And I continued working for Ogilvy until 2005. Then I started my own advertising firm, Speak Advertising. Why advertise when you can speak? Then I got involved in Virginia Tech, and I felt my calling. I loved it. So I continued to consult, went back to grad school, had my second daughter, and then became an associate professor of practice in the marketing department, where I founded the first social media organization, Prism. So that's a lot of my life. I teach about 600 students. I oversee the board, and then I handle the marketing for the college, and I just absolutely love it. So one of the key pieces that we constantly talk about with the students, with everyone, is your personal brand and how critical that is. And I think the beauty of it is that when all of us went to college, there might have been a lot of things that happened, but they're not online. And I think that as we look more and more into these young students, as we call digital natives, and they're unaware of what they're doing online, and I've often said that there should be a few different types of guidance in terms of whether it's middle school or elementary school, not just about the birds and bees anymore, but about privacy protection and knowing what you're doing online, and really being thoughtful about that, and as well educating parents as well to do that. So I started a few years ago, even more than that, probably doing personal branding, talking to students about who they were, what their USP, unique selling proposition could be, and how they could associate themselves, and saying the same way in real life you associate yourselves with certain people, you need to consider that online. It's your digital footprint. And I actually, when I present this live, I start taking steps, and I say, imagine how many clicks you've taken today. Imagine that in a footstep. Every single time you click, your impression is going somewhere. And yes, you're being tracked and all of that, but at the same point, I talk about social media and personal branding for good, and to be aware of what the bad is, but certainly for good, and how to build up a really strong brand, because these days companies are not just looking at resumes, as we know. They're looking online. We have students that now do video resumes through a new company called vloggedin.com. And we are really, really just working to really help them, and they're seeing the benefits through internships, through connections. I have over 3,000 on my LinkedIn, and I always say, link in with me. If you see someone you can connect to, please do. So when I talk about personal branding, it's kind of your digital dossier, you know, in terms of where you go and the impact. And then I also talk about addiction with social media and how many are, you know, kind of coming into that life and just can't put the phone down, can't have that one-on-one conversation, which as they go into business, that's expected obviously a lot, and you can't be in an interview looking down at your phone wanting to take a text. So this new generation coming up is going to need it more than ever.
Donna, I love that. I actually speak to college students a lot as well, and on LinkedIn, and I give that almost an exact word for word same speech. And I say, I'm not here. I am, you know, I have kids your age, but I'm not here as your mother saying, watch what you put on Facebook. I'm here as a social media expert saying, watch what you put on Facebook. You know, like, because it, you know, it is, people do, it is your personal brand. And imagine if you take control of that when you're 18 instead of when you're 28. And really, when you go to graduate, you're connected with the right people, and you've got a personal brand that really stands out from your friends. I think it's so powerful.
Yeah.
So I love that you have the same
and Donna, one thing, Donna has these big classes, like 500 students in marketing, and I got to put up and speak to them, but she did this presentation, and I wish I could a video on here, but the thing that blew my mind is, and what was it, Donna, is that the last week when they did a test with a 10-year-old buying a book, like one click on,
Christina, really echoing? Is everybody hearing?
Yeah, I think we're all echoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just lower my.
I'm turning.
I'm
I wish I
gonna
had
lower
my
my
phone.
volume a little.
But that was the thing that just, when I saw that, and Donna, you can explain it because you watched it so many times, but you know, when you do that one click or that one post, what it can do in 24 hours.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. It was a TED Talk that it came off of, and it's actually something you can install. Years ago, it was called Collusion, and now it's called Lightbeam. So, and the TED Talk is tracking the trackers, pretty much, and it shows the places that you search and start, and then how many based on those places are following you, and then how many other ancillary channels are following you. So this man did it and was trying to analyze it in terms of who was following him, where were they following him, etc. Then he had his 10-year-old do it, and she was on channels such as, you know, the general channels, Disney, Nickelodeon, and within a 2-hour time frame, I think 500 people were following her. So he said, you know, I moved from a parent of being irate to really, or concerned to irate that so many people would be following this. But there's actually software that you can install, and I've had students do it, and they're mind blown when they say, oh my goodness, the blue dots are me, all the red dots are people I don't even know that are following me. So as a post, if you want to post it or I can tweet about it, I'm more than happy to share those links to that software and how you can see who's tracking you. And then there's also another link. It's how Google handles your information and what it puts out. And you can try to disable all of that and see if, wow, am I getting less ads this week or next week or whatever the case. And obviously from an advertising perspective, media buyers are really concerned in terms of, oh my goodness, all these ad blocks, all that. And even getting on the phone today, I had to remove my ad block to get into it. So that was one of the challenges as well. But when you think about the tracking and who's analyzing and how they're targeting, from a marketer standpoint, it's phenomenal if we have the right consumer at the right place at the right time. However, from a consumer's perspective, it goes back to privacy, right? And I always say George Orwell had it right to a certain extent, Big Brother. Big Brother would be watching us, but the one aspect he didn't account for is that we would be giving him all the information and just being completely transparent. So for marketers these days, it's a constant dialogue. It's wonderful to sit on your channel and see what people are saying back and forth. But for consumers, it's kind of freaky. It's somewhat of a stalk aspect, and consumers say, so I Google this, and the next day, I Google something about skis, and the next day I have all these things popping up, whether it's on my Facebook or whether it's on, any type of searches, or when I mention something in Facebook and all of a sudden an ad pops up. How closely am I being looked at? So, all of these interfaces and the APIs that Facebook creates in terms of what you see at one time based on your friends, it's all this digital world, and it's all based on, yes, big data, but really corralling that big data into small data to understand how it affects whether it's your brand or another brand, and how we can make usefulness out of this information that we're obtaining. So that was definitely really kind of interesting. And just thinking about how many, in terms of online, and as people go through it, there have been studies that have been done in terms of how many high schoolers sleep with their phone under their pillow. They cannot, they can't release it. They can't let go of that minute of, what if I miss something? But then there have been videos. One of the greatest videos it's called Look Up. And it's got a long-term video of everyone looking down. And it's the story of this man, and it shows him it's kind of sliding doors in two different ways. And one way he decides to look up and sees this young girl, and then they go through his entire life, and they get married and kids and all this sort of stuff. And the other video is he's too tied into his phone, and he misses the girl, and he never has the family, or and that was an extreme. But there've been a lot of videos about it, about really kind of looking up and being more involved in it. But I think the key to it in the digital world is, and it's not just digitally, it's mobile as well. We're getting tracked mobily when we're in gaming, augmented reality. All of these pieces companies are understanding the importance of data. And
Our Fitbits tell everybody how many steps, where we go,
yes,
how many of us are wearing Fitbits,
and part of that
right?
is good, right? Because, Karen, it starts a community. So you want to know that I'm competing and I've got 10,000 steps and I'm going to, beat you the next time. So that community base is really good. And that's where I think the benefits could come in. If there were more community based, and if there was the chance for people to really understand the positive versus the negative. But, there have been, any of these tracking mechanisms, and obviously wearable is huge. Last year, will.i.am came out with, this whole wearable technology that he wants to bring back into the area where he grew up, because he said we didn't have it, and really want to make people or young kids understand it. So it's great in that sense. And even some wearables, they track it, and based on your health and fitness, you can get discounts off of your insurance. So they're trying all these different things to engage, and how do they keep something really interesting for you? Because Fitbit's been great, but there's no messages, there's no engagement. So unless you're tied into a community with someone pushing you, just like that gym friend that says, come on, it's cold, but let's go. So it's just been an interesting process. And people say, why do you love marketing? And I absolutely love it. And Christina knows that I'm like a crazy woman when I present in front of classes, but it changes every day, and there's something happening all the time, and I'm so interested in it. And it was a calling to teach, but I've always been a mentor, and I surround myself with mentors such as Christina and Karen now, such as you, in terms of just understanding other people, where they come from, what they're doing, and seeing how we can really help each other and strengthen bonds. And then so moving from that standpoint, the other piece is, and I'm sorry if I'm going on, but
it's fascinating. That's why I wanted you here.
You go. I would interrupt.
Well, the other piece, which is really interesting, is online bullying and the silent bullying, where, and that's coming across in a lot of middle schoolers and some high schoolers, where, they're posting pictures or they're doing things, and it's, we're all getting together, and it's everyone but one girl or one boy. And it constantly occurs over and over. Or obviously some of the new chats, Snapchat, where it's great, everyone's looking at it really quickly. It's a lot of fun. They do a lot of cool things with facial recognition. So kind of bringing that in. I mean, I'm on Snapchat watching with my daughters, snapping, all that sort of stuff. So I try to really be, kind of involved or whatever, but it's all this visual that this generation is getting used to. But even with Snapchats, sometimes they're created to only, we're going to snap so this girl or boy sees it and knows that he's not here or whatever. So I go back to that whole guidance counselor and understanding, what your approach is online. And, the starting age on LinkedIn is now, as young as 13, where they're really trying. And if you kind of think about it, they can do all these types of competitions in middle school, going into high school. There's DECA programs, there's all sorts of stuff. So they're starting out to really build their personal brand and understanding it, which I think they have a better chance, and they're more of the Gen Z and even Gen AA. If you look at, the difference between, if you just said Gen Z is anyone from, after 9/11 and beyond, but even those are sub-segments when you look at, because both my daughters would be considered Gen Z, but my 15-year-old is completely different than my 10-year-old. So they're actually looking at that. And Christina, this is something Thomas brought up in our last meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
But, Gen AA and how they look at things very differently, how they feel, and what YouTube has done to that generation as well. And it's become an entirely different world where I'm immersing myself with a lot of things that I never, ever grew up with or had accessibility, or new rules as parents, such as, technology turn-off time, so we can remove that and have these connections, because I'm sure you've seen it how many times, there's a group of people around, and never have so many people been around and so isolated at the same point, because everyone's in their world on their phone. And yes, building up that social, footprint, but at the same point, losing that real time.
Right. And you know what? I would love to know, Donna, do you see like what I think even 5 years ago, even as little as 5 years ago, you could still say you're not allowed to be on Facebook till you're 18, or you're not allowed to be on Snapchat till you're 18, but you almost can't do that anymore. You almost can't do that anymore. You have got to understand that this is how this generation interacts. This is their social platform. So I'm not saying you have to learn it as a parent, but I think that you're kidding yourself if you think you can just block it out from their lives until they're a certain age, because it is.
And then if you block it out completely, then that blocks their friends, and then that's a social aspect, So what we did, it's interesting, because Snapchat, when it started, was very much being promoted as these things. It was viewed as more of a sexual use versus just a chat. So I immediately shut my daughter down and said, no way, you're not getting involved. And then we had a conversation about it, and she said, how about you and I both go on it and we look at it? And since I teach it, et cetera, I said, okay, it should be fine. And some youngsters will still see me and say, you're on Snapchat? And I'll say, this is the world. I'm on everything, so I can see it and not just talk about it, but walk about it and understand it. So, I understood more of the platform once I did open that up. And it's interesting because we went to Facebook actually this past fall. And so we had 12 students with us, and all the students were saying, well, the younger generation specifically, whether it's middle schoolers or high schoolers, maybe more middle schoolers, aren't on it, and they're on Instagram, but Facebook owns Instagram. So of course, Facebook is getting that both group. So Facebook felt, well, they're eventually going to go on to us because they're going to grow up, and Facebook, they almost view as the graduation from Instagram onto Facebook and really building that. But the other point, which is interesting from a psychological standpoint, is as parents, we always told them, you're not going on Facebook. You're not going on Facebook, and for them as well, it was a lot of people that were older, and am I having these conversations? So I remember whether it was, and this is just anecdotally, but in middle school, we'd hear about a couple of friends that had a Facebook account, and my daughter would say, oh, they're saying they're really 18 or 19, because you do have to be 18, and they were just kind of lying. And in my mind, I was thinking, it's never a good thing to lie about your age rather than just not tell your age. But when they're younger and they're saying I'm this old, that concerns me, because then it reminds me of predators or something. And so that's why I'm so careful about it. But the generations are different. And my oldest is very to the book. I will not do this. I mean, we follow her on Twitter. So if she tweets something out, my husband will say, remove that immediately. She'll retweet something. Yeah. So, but then, the younger one, it's interesting because she almost feels that, and this is, I could talk about her, I could talk about one of my best friends who lives in New Jersey, who has a 10-year-old as well, and they're both on the same type of channels. They watch these families on YouTube as if they're their own families. And so she really feels connected to these people and connected to celebrities or people in general. So here I am preaching about it constantly. And so about a year ago, she wanted to get her own Instagram. And I said, okay, you can post things. So it started a little bit where, some of my students, she saw my list, so she asked them, and they said, oh, we'll watch her. She does funny things. And I did miss watching her and tracking it. And I think it was only 2 weeks. And within 2 weeks, she was following 900 people. And I freaked out. We shut her channel down, and I realized she's not mature enough to really understand this. And even though some of her other friends, she had a friend in 3rd grade that had an iPhone. You know, there's different levels and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But she's not ready for it. She even will say, you know, I'm not ready. I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't want to do it. So it's really interesting in terms of how they view it. Like, oh, 900 people, I'll follow them. And then a bunch of them were following her back. And I'm thinking, this is a 9-year-old, and they could be saying they're on a TV show, but they're not. So we just shut it down until we feel like she understands it a little bit more. I'd rather her safe than sorry. So
I have to tell you a funny story. I was helping a reporter out for the Washington Post, and they were writing an article about, you know, teens and social media. And I had teenagers, and she said, you know, can I interview your kids? And I said, sure. And she said, before I do that, I want to get on their Instagram accounts. What are their names? And when I gave them the names, my kids' accounts were locked. She couldn't access any of their stuff. I was like, yes, I was so excited. So that was really, you know, but it's important that they understand that. And then I went to visit a friend down in Richmond, and he had a friend, and that person was a model in New York. And all his friends were from the show Orange is the New Black. So my daughter loves that show, which I know is bad. But so he was trying to send her a picture, and she would not accept his friend request because she didn't know him. So it was like, okay, good, that's good. Even somebody, you know, a celebrity who knows her celebrities. So, but it's really important to instill that in those kids so they understand how scary it can be. And I remember one of her friends was in the car, and she's like, oh, look at this. And there's another chat thing. It's not Snapchat, it's a newer one. And she's like, oh, look at this cute boy, you know, who found me. And I said, Ellie, that's a 50-year-old man who's using a picture of an 18-year-old cute football playing boy. Like, no.
Yeah, it's frightening, really frightening.
Really is.
When you know, it's interesting too, because you brought up, you know, how many friends and this and that. And I was just talking with somebody else the other day about the Dunbar rule, and it's the Dunbar 150. So it goes back to, you know, when tribes would break off after 150. And Dunbar, you know, he said in his research that no one can really have any more than 150 friends. Otherwise, it breaks out after that. And basically, if you looked at your Facebook friends, could you, all of them, would you call any of them, or if you saw them live and in person, would you sit down and have a cup of coffee with them? Like, do you know them to that degree? But then someone challenged Dunbar and said, 150 of what? I could have 150 personal relationships. I could have 150 professional relationships. So it still goes back and forth. And, you know, we can have empathy for people. And I think we just did a research survey, and someone said, well, I sent it out and then I boosted it to my friends and their friends, et cetera. And, you know, a lot of them didn't really respond. And I said, well, it's your internal tribe that's going to respond most. And, you know, you've got points of pain and points of passion, and that's who you're going to share. And when you know those people, those are your key influencers. And even if you look at Facebook and the way, who you interact with the most and how you see those posts the most. And there are settings on Facebook, obviously, edit friends. Those are that more like acquaintances versus good friends. But I really see it like people that are really good friends, but don't post a lot. Every now and then they'll post something, but it will not come up on my feed unless I find it. So there are some things going on like that. But I think that whole community and how many is important. And then, Christina, back to your point, there is another platform that came out, and I think it's U.TV. And imagine like the Brady Bunch, but even more, you know, boxes. And it could be us, what we're doing now. And it's like, oh, they're just sitting there. It's just high schoolers or whomever sitting there. That's one. The other one is Ask.fm, which is another scary platform because people can ask people anything. They can upload. It's a big thing in middle school where I've seen some, you know, some things. So it's just, it's the world we live in, and we have to be in it and know what is occurring. But every single time something comes up, or if I can figure something out, or what the latest technology is, I'm talking about it to my kids and saying, have you heard about this? What's this? What's that? And they're aware of it, or they'll say, well, yeah, we know about it, but I'm not doing that. And they know that I can check it. A friend of my daughter's actually said, oh, just go on Facebook. Your mother, no one will know. She's like, my mother will know,
But I have found that they're doing
a couple of questions.
Oh yeah, I'll do that one second. But then the kids are doing fake profiles that their parents can see with their name, and then they've got another one that their parents don't know about.
Yeah, multiple profiles. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And we had that with a friend's daughter, and it was really, they called it her time of trying things, but they were okay with some things that I wouldn't be okay with, but they were most concerned about online. And I was thinking, you need to look at her offline and online and figure some things out.
All right, Donna, we have a couple questions on the side. What is the software you mentioned that helps protect your children online?
So it's called Lightbeam. It used to be called Collusion, Lightbeam.
Okay. Oh, good. She just put it on. Awesome. And then,
yeah, that should be it. Is that coming up?
Yeah, we just put it in. And then somebody asked this a while ago, but we'll kind of circle back around. But he said, how would you describe the evolution of the word and the realm of podcasting, having been in 22 years in marketing?
The word meaning the word podcast?
Can you see it? Are you on your phone or are you on a computer? The question's over on the left.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's see. The evolution of the world or the word, do you think?
Maybe he meant the world.
Evolution of the world and the REM. My goodness, it has been, maybe I could identify with the Tasmanian devil, I guess, in 22 years. It's been fast and furious, I think, within the last decade. Everything that we have seen, and when we think about the last decade, it was only 10 years ago that Mark Zuckerman started Facebook, and from there, and we look at if we evolve, we had AOL, but, and if everyone looked at AOL and said, oh, we're done, then Facebook would never evolved in terms of having these communities and building this up. Or then, how we find news much quicker on Twitter, and we don't have to wait for the paper. I think about just different things, and not to bring up something sad, but, the Boston bombing and how the Boston police were tweeting directly from that, and how Boston has such a huge following because people want to hear it directly from the source. So that's interesting in terms of how it's impacted news and how news is viewed. It has impacted tremendously PR for, and with consumers that have a podium, they can make your brand thrive, or they can make your brand dive. And we've seen it time and time again with companies that need to be so transparent and yet are not. And we've seen them, we've seen it whether it was with the BP oil spill or with Toyota. All of these online communities are getting together and really calling out some companies. So it's this evolution of relative to podcasts and the fact that we're not all sitting in a studio and we're all here, but we're communicating. This is only just going to continue. And I think, I always say the world and how we're kind of arching out. And I look at, Mark Schaefer, who is a phenomenal writer. He wrote a book called The Tao of Twitter, and it looks at all of these circles in terms of digital online and how it started basically with email, and then it leads to online, and then even when people say, are you going online? Yeah, I'm going on Facebook. And then it goes to Facebook, and then it goes to mobile, then it goes to gaming, then it goes to augmented reality, so all of these pieces. And with, I really am excited about augmented reality, and I know we talk about it a lot, but I think with Oculus Rift and what companies are able to do, and if we can bring people those experiences while they're sitting in their chair to say, wow, this might be the right school for you, you may want to go on vacation here, experience it right now. At Virginia Tech, we have something called the Cube. So we've done simulated tornadoes, and now we're looking at all of our international programs and how we can really bring those to Blacksburg so students can experience them. So augmented reality is now getting into touch, which is really interesting. So you can actually go in and touch things. And the next will probably hopefully be smell. So you can every single sense to experience it as if you're there as a kind of trial aspect. So I hope that answered your question, two guys talking.
No, that's a lot of people are commenting about the augmented reality and virtual reality, and I know you are passionate about this, but if you take a step back and you think about marketing and where that's going to take you, it's just unbelievable. That, right, you can sit there, you can put something on and see, feel, hear, smell something before you even try it.
I really love it for people that have said, and we always get, certain people that say, I've never been out of the country. Well, now you can in a certain extent, right. Think about what we could do, even around the world, areas of poverty, all sorts of things, to kind of like bring their world into ours so they can see it. There's just for nonprofits, for corporations, the hotels are really taking charge of it, as you can imagine. Marriott does a really great, they did it in New York, and then you pop on the glasses and all of a sudden you were in their Maui location in Hawaii. Or Starwood's really getting into it as well, where they're in the rooms for consumers. Or I was just in Best Buy the other day, and they have Oculus Rift. You can just put the glasses on and it ties to any of your Samsung. This was the most interesting. Do y'all remember those old picture viewers, those clicks? You'd put the slide in and you get to see the clicks.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, it has evolved, and for Christmas, my 10-year-old got one that's now augmented reality. You put your iPhone into it, and she is now going up a mountain in the Alps. She's doing all this it is just mind-blowing, the technology that these kids have access to now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my son has that too. It's
I did.
crazy.
We couldn't get it. We were so
It's
excited. I think we were using it more than she was. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's fun. And then exactly, like your brain goes to all the amazing things that can be done with this technology.
It's really, really true. And I think that's how we can harness the technology to really, really kind of look at her to see how we can change the world, how we can ideate, how we can fix, I always look at, entrepreneurs and ideation and all that sort of stuff. And I think one of the key things is, how do we use technology and understanding? So two young girls had created an app called Companion. So this app now follows you home, and you've got people that know, okay, they're walking home from campus, from wherever, and the app sends out signals. It's almost like a drone is following you. So if your walk gets intercepted, if something occurs, which I think is really great. We need to think more about that. But I was talking to somebody and I said, in terms of ideation, let's talk about global warming. Let's fix, let's talk about it all and how we use these phenomenal new technologies to wrap our minds around changing the world. So.
All right, we only have 12 minutes left. I just want to invite, if anybody wants to come in and talk to Donna, ask questions, anything, we'd love to have you. So we'll keep going, but if you want to come in, now's the time.
Yeah, no, that's.
All right, so let's bring Frank in.
Hey there, ladies. How are you?
Hey, Frank. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Hi,
nice to see you again, Karen. Christina.
Yes, same. You too.
Love what you're. Not too much. I love what you're
What's
saying,
happening?
and I'm concerned as a parent. Also, I've got a young son, and he's just getting into. Well, he's been getting into technology, but so far he's on, mostly watching YouTube videos, but he's curious about social media, and I'm trying to delay that as long as possible because of some of the concerns you've expressed. In our school system, we get mailings that when the predators move into the neighborhood, you get a notification from the that's mandated by the state, I believe, or whatever. So it's just that they're out there, and it's even scarier online because they have such
access,
better access. So in terms of that software you mentioned, is that like the best security that you're aware of? Or I think Christina was referring to some other blockers. What are some of the other types of protections you can put in place on software operating systems, et cetera?
Every one of the platforms, well, Instagram definitely has a platform, has a security system where you can't follow a person. They have to accept and approve you to let you follow them. There are ways on Facebook to block people. Every platform that's out there right now, even, from simple mobile and phone numbers, allows you to block people. But in terms of being proactive, there is Lightbeam, but there's also, and I can send this to Christina and Karen, there are a variety of links that Google produces that aren't shared publicly necessarily, that you can download and look at all your settings on Google, etc., to remove any of the cookies or any way, and you can see usually the dramatic effect from 1 week to the next 2 weeks, and how many less advertisements you're getting or other things that are kind of tracking and following you. So every platform has it, and as the ad block nation kind of continues to block the ads and to let the consumer have more of their own time, privacy certainly pulls into that. And I think, and I'll probably do a little bit more research into it, Lightbeam and the Google, Google software are probably the two key pieces, but it could be, and there's also, because I know we set up things as well, if they're going to be on a certain channel, all of the different settings. So any one of them, let's say how old is your son?
10.
Okay. So that's where my daughter is too. And she, even what she views on YouTube, we set those settings, etc.
Yeah, which is mostly Minecraft videos at this point.
Yeah, yep, Minecraft, and she the Daily Bumps. I don't know if your son, but she is. It's a TV show. It's about a family, and I'm like, why wouldn't you be interested in our family? You're interested in this family that we don't even know.
Exactly.
But anyway, we've just been really careful with her and tried to, like I said, the whole Instagram thing, and she had 900 followers, and we were like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're not letting him on Instagram or social media or a smartphone or anything at this point. In fact, we're restricting access to, on school days, restricting access to YouTube or devices.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the challenge comes when their other friends are on things, but I've also pushed back in terms of her, she will not get a phone anytime soon. She's not, she's 10, and I kind of still look at that, and there's a part of me that says, let them be 10 as long as they can, kind of thing, and until when you get into this world and all of the, technology, and then they see all of these certain things, it takes away. So I'd rather have her out playing, etc. But I imagine there are other types of locks and other things that you can put on to protect, or there's actually programs that alert the parents if someone's trying to get in, if someone's trying, multiple times. So there's a lot of those things out there, and I can certainly do a little bit more of a search and provide more links and stuff. I'm sure you'll do a post, a post after this call or for information. So we all can have it and just leave it there just for, parents' protection and how to really protect our children.
There needs to be better resources. And the challenge I see with that is that many of the protections that you're describing are native to the specific platforms, which would mean that each time the child, and especially as they grow to become a teenager, joins a new platform, you're not necessarily going to be aware of that and be around or available to put a block on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and Meevee that just came out Sunday and all these other things, much less some of the ones that we're not even aware of, because the kids will.
Well, Donna, I'm not sure I have the right one, but when I looked at Lightbeam, it doesn't look, Lightbeam.com is not the website. It looks like it's a Firefox plugin.
Yeah, that's right.
So that makes sense. That means so I guess we have to find out if it's beyond
Firefox. Is there a Chrome plugin?
To be searching for it to be effective. Like what if? Right. I don't know. All I could find
it's a plugin, and there's also one for Google, and there's probably a couple of others. The other way that any of these channels we utilize our email, or if we create an email for her, let's say, and we know the passwords, so we can check it all the time. So it takes away any of the control as much as possible from the child, and not to say they can't grow up and build other things, but I think, like I mentioned, if there's more information in school, and not just about predators, but about social media and even educating them. If you're not on the channels, here's what occurs, here's what you need to be aware of, and not just the kids, but the parents as well, and really talking about that and almost having a pact. You know, they have a pact now, which I'm sure you all have signed, where, you know, internet safety, and if your child is online, what they abide to this. It's kind of an honor code. I think
there's nothing like that in our school.
We have an honor code system, and there's this whole 2-page document that the student has to sign with the parents, talking about their code of conduct online, what they will search for, what they won't search for. And I think it's going to become a bigger thing. I mean, honestly,
I think it has to. It's kind of like DARE, you know, on drug education.
Exactly.
And Robin's making a great point here about conversation is the most important parental control.
Right, that's what Robin said. You've got to have that conversation. I have my son will be 18 next week, and my daughter is almost 16. But I talk about this stuff. I talk about that, drugs, alcohol, every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be something that your kids are comfortable with that conversation to have with you. So if something is going wacky or crazy, whatever, that they will come to you. And if you only say it one time, it's not comfortable. But if you are constantly talking, it's part of the conversation, it just makes a huge difference. So I think that's before you sign papers and do whatever and put, you know, and Robin said too, these kids can get around these hacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is another great point, because I have a friend whose son is, you know, my friend is a computer expert himself, and he's raised his son to do certain things. So obviously he learned to hack stuff, and he's gotten himself in a lot of trouble because now he's a teenager, and he's doing what teenagers do, which is push the limits, push the boundaries, and try things, etc. So, you know, it's great that you want your kids to grow up to be tech savvy and learn this stuff, but there's, you know, with like Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, and a lot of people miss that part of the equation. So I think it's incumbent, obviously, on the bigger companies like Microsoft with the operating system, or Google, or with Chrome or Firefox with the browsers, to have like a broad level protection in place, so that you don't you're not stuck trying to figure out every single social media platform that your children can be on, and having to go into each individual setting. I mean, I know for myself, I've got so many social media accounts, I've got to track the passwords and usernames in a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine my son, as he grows into this, is going to be in a similar situation, especially because new platforms are coming online all the time. I mean, Mevi was released on Sunday. I'm hearing about it like crazy on Blab. I haven't even checked it out yet, but these things, I'm sure CES is this week. You've got Social Media Week coming up in February. All these companies are competing to be on this in this space. So there's going to be an explosion of new apps, and there's got to be a higher level protection at the operating system level or at the browser level.
Yeah, and I think even we utilize a lot here. Some of the things we do aren't with passwords; they're with fingerprints. So, or there's also things with Retina that they've been doing in terms of passwords. So it's really, really interesting what the future holds. I mean, if we've come this far, and what I think of as 10 years, because I mean, I feel like once Facebook started, things started to really explode. You know, Twitter then started in 2007, and everything's just taken, you know, and those platforms that are doing really, really well. And as my friend from Nike says, you know, you fish where the fish are, and that's where a lot of them are. And I think they're kind of leading the way, but I would also hope that they would also lead the way in terms of how to protect your child. Or I think there needs to be some government regulations. And that's been the big thing too. There haven't been.
That's always going to lag disasters, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Regulations are typically formed ad hoc in the face of, you know,
an issue.
Heinous events.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, so we're just about ready to wrap up. Frank, Robin wants to hop in real quick.
All right,
so
I'll hop out and let Robin jump in. I liked her comment. Thanks, ladies. Thank you very much. I love what you're saying.
Come on, Frank. Christina, maybe we can go an extra few minutes since we started late with Donna, because we seem like we've got a lot of.
Yeah, a lot. So let me put Robin in.
We'll make an exception for you, Donna.
For you, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Robin. Welcome.
Hi, Robin.
Thank you so much. A great conversation. I'm getting feedback. Are you guys?
A little bit.
Yeah, let me turn mine down.
Sorry about that. Okay. Better? Yeah, better. Okay. The comments I made about the parenting, we've been talking about this online with the company I work with, the Online Mom, for years now. That the conversations we have with our kids are the most important tool we can have, and we have to model the behavior that we want from them. But that being said, my son is 21 now. He has some other issues and stuff happening too, but he was raised in a very techie kind of home. I've been online for years and years and years. And so as he grew up, I learned about a lot of the things that these kids were doing because he was doing them, right? And so I kind of am speaking from experience in that my son did a lot of the things we don't want our kids to do. And I had to learn as I went along. And I don't want people to bury their heads in the sand about it, because my head wasn't buried and he still was, I mean, beyond. And, you know, he just, it was crazy what he could do. And like I said in the chat, that he would hack every parental control I ever tried. Luckily, he told me about it because he was really proud of himself. And I would let whoever the manufacturer of that control I was using know what he did. So they knew.
Robin's son test.
Yeah, that's right. And I would change and try something else. But for most of us, we don't need to spy on our kids. We need to have conversations with them and have some level of monitoring, right? But if your child is beyond that and is a little bit out of control, a lot of out of control, there are some more heavy duty tools out there for you. And I don't know the names of what they are currently because my son lives out on his own now, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. But they are out there. And I know one of the ones that I had to use with my son for a little while, I got every picture he sent or received on his phone, every text message, everything. I didn't look at every single one, but I would kind of just monitor every once in a while and see what's happening. But I always told him what I was doing. And I told him, I pay your phone bill.
Yeah, we say that.
Yeah. It's I'm the mom. This is it. If you don't like it, don't use your phone. You know, I mean, that was what it came down to. But we always do talk about that. The conversations first, don't spy on your kids and that, but not everybody's in the same situation. And if you have a difficult child, there are more tools out there. You're just going to have to dig a little deeper.
Good stuff, Robin. Really good stuff. Good to know.
I agree.
And you know what? You made a good point about you on the phone. At the end of the day, we are the parents, right? So we do get to set the rules and, you know, and deliver the consequences. So
exactly. Yeah. We are not their friends. We are their parents.
Right. One of the best tools, parenting tools I ever had was that suspend the cell phone on, you know, VerizonWireless.com. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right about your room being clean? No, we're not. Just your phone will go back on as soon as it's clean. Take all the time you want.
Exactly. And Verizon is a client that I've worked with for many years, but other companies have these things too, the family tools and stuff, and they are really great. That you can go in and suspend an account. You can go in and set limits. So if you have a shared data plan and your kid is sucking up all the data, you can. So even if you have 10 gigabytes.
I just learned this.
Right. If you have 10 gigabytes for the entire family each month and it's shared data, you can go in line by, or, you know, telephone line by telephone line and say, okay, this person only gets 2 gigs. You know, or this person only gets this. You can turn off the ability to text and do different things, all kinds of good stuff like that. But you need to check into it and ask your provider. I know Verizon has lots of classes on it and stuff. I'm sure other companies do as well. Call them, go into a real store that's a corporate-owned store. Ask them to help you with it. They will.
Yeah, definitely. I think Verizon is one of the leaders in that. And Verizon just works really well in this area. And we did it this summer. You know, our daughter finished up and wasn't where her grades would be. So she only had the ability to text myself, my husband, or my parents. And it drove her crazy, but it sent a message. And in terms of, we are the owners of the phone. And I easily say that. And sometimes I get really irate and just say, you own nothing. We own it all. And, you know, because I don't think she gets that. And there's the, hormonal kind of teen life that we live. But I absolutely just want to say that those one-on-one conversations are key. And it's that balance, right? It's, I don't want to be, I'm your parent. I don't want to be your friend, but I want a relationship where you respect what I say. And I think that we're constantly learning and kind of going through that. But I think that those live conversations, ones that I never had with my mom, and I love my mom to death, but it would never have been spoken. And I will just talk, and, my daughter, some of her friends are like, oh, your mom's the cool mom. And I'm just very honest, and I'd rather see it or hear it or tell me about it so I'm aware of it so we can talk about it versus her thinking she's got to hide it,
Yep. I'm with you 100%. I agree with you totally.
All right. Well, thanks, Robin. We're going to wrap
I'm
up.
going to jump off, but thank you. I'm listening still. Bye.
Robin, yeah, it was so nice to get to know you, Robin. So we kind of let this conversation go off on a tangent, and I think I'm so glad we did. But I want to kind of turn it, bring it around back to Get Seen, Be Heard, which is from this young age. We're talking about our 10-year-olds here. From this young age, our 10-year-olds' personal brands are being developed. And that might sound crazy, but it's not crazy. It is what's actually happening. So, I guess as parents, we do what we can do, but certainly as social media experts and as PR experts, it's important. That's why we do this show, right? So we can kind of share the things that we've seen and done and things that have, we've come across that hopefully, we can make everybody's lives that are watching this, their businesses and their lives a little more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this show is great. In my mind, I'm thinking about other people that I want to recommend to have on the show.
Oh, absolutely. And so next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to have you back, Donna, too. I do. I think we need to have you back. We haven't said that yet.
Be awesome.
I think we need to have you back because we could talk about this for another show.
Yeah, and that's what I keep telling people in the sidebar. That's another show. We'll have her back.
Yes, no, absolutely. And whatever it is, and I am going to do some more digging and finding so I can have that information about any protection and in terms of policies and settings that we can just help and share with everyone about how to keep our kids safe and how to be in the know as well.
Awesome. All right. Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you guys. And next week, super excited. We have John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire, #1 podcast. And I think I read, Karen, right? He has 1 million downloads a month on his podcast. Amazing guy. So fun, tons of energy. So we're gonna have a great time. So we're on every Thursday, 2:30 to 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. So thank you, Donna. I'll see you next week. And Karen.
Yes. And if you guys go to Christina's profile right now, you can see you can subscribe to next week's show with John Lee Dumas. It's under Christina's profile. So go to her profile, subscribe to next week's show. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank
you guys. Donna. So nice to meet you. Take care. See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today on our Blab series, Get Seen, Be Heard. If you've missed any episodes, you can always find us at www.getseenbeheardtv.com/YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll always be notified when we upload a new episode. We work together with clients, helping them combine social media and PR to get more customers and grow their business. If that sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, visit us at www.soartoprofit.com. We have regular workshops where we combine our expertise and show you how to use social media and publicity to get seen and be heard. See you next week.